Today we're going to go into looking at how to put arguments into your batch scripts and then take those arguments and assign them to variables. And then we're going to take those variables and be able to display some output to the screen, as well as do a few things with the numbers. And then we will close out with a very quick overview of environment variables and how to take your batch file and be able to run it pretty much anywhere on the system. So we're just going to get started with a general quick overview of arguments. Arguments are essentially, when you look at most programming languages, most programming languages involve some sort of interaction between the user and the program itself. This is normally in the form of the UI. The user clicks a button or use a drag and drop box. Just what we do in our day-to-day computing, and the program responds by doing some sort of magic that goes on behind the scenes that accomplishes the task or goal. The same thing basically applies to scripts. And so when we write our scripts, in most cases, scripts are going to involve some sort of input or interaction from the user. And this is all done through the use of arguments. And command line arguments can be passed into the batch file and can be stored as variables in which the script can be able to use for its logic or to display something back to the user. So we can look at pretty much any standard command that exists or function that is within the command prompt, accepts some sort of argument in order to augment its behavior. And we are going to let me get a CMD up, and we're just going to take a random command. I think I will use the copy command. And so we are going to go in. Let me make sure the zoom is good. All right, so we're going to go in and we're going to take the copy command, and we're just going to take a quick look at what copy does. So copy just moves one file, or copies one or more files to another location. And as we can see, when we use the help for the copy command, we see that on this left side right here that there are a list of different options that you can append to the copy command. So in its normal form, you can just take copy. You can type a source location, a destination location, and that file will be copied over into that new location. But there may be something additional that you may want to do with that copy command, and as you can see here, source. I mean, we always have a source and destination, but we can put in like a verification. We can do a short file names. We can check to see if it's an overwrite, whether or not it's going to be a binary or ASCII file. These are all things that can succeed the copy command in order to augment its behavior. Sometimes these things are usually called arguments. They can also be called switches. So when these things are passed in, the logic underneath is going to take these and it will then proceed to do something additional underneath the hood to provide you with that specific augmentation to the function. So how does that apply to the scripts that we write, like our custom scripts? And it's pretty simple. So when we write our scripts, at its basic core, we will use the percent sign modifier. And then what the percent sign modifier will do is that it just simply just designates an argument for that script. And these values will go in order from, %1, %2, %3. I'm just going to open up a notepad really quick, or I'll just keep Notepad++ up, and I will show you it's just kind of like what I mean. So normally we can type these, or what I mean by %1, %2, and %3. These are what we use to define arguments. It goes in that order. So if you were to have multiple arguments in your, if you need multiple arguments to go into your command line function, then this could basically go as far as you need it to go. But it would be pretty ridiculous, if you had a script that required like 8, 9, 10 different arguments, and that probably means that something's not written very efficiently if that were to be the case. But if you do need multiple arguments, then you're able to use each one as sequential. So 1, 2, 3, and and so forth and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a file, and we're going to create a test.bat again, as we did in our previous lesson. So I didn't want to go through and make everything like pre-made. I want to try to walk through and type it and put everything out as if I was just making it for myself for the very first time. So you can kind of get an idea of how that would go if you were to walk through these same things. You can follow along, or you can go and look back and see how I did things, down in the future. So we're just going to go in. We're going to create our test.bat. We'll just name it test, and let's go to our drop down, and we're going to make sure that it's a batch file here, and click save. And so now we have our blank canvas for test.bat. So now what we want to first do is take test.bat. With test.bat is we want to just display a argument that comes from the command line. And we will start with an echo off. So this time around, we don't want to see anything under the hood. We do not want to see each line by line be executed when we run this script. We just want to simply have the user type test.bat with a single argument and display that argument back to the user on the screen. So that's why we're going to start out with echo off. Then we are going to let's just do an echo, and we're going to do just %1. So what this is going to do, if we save this and run it, then test.bat will just display whatever the first argument that we place after it. So arguments are separated just by white space. So if we were to write test.bat and put 3 different words after this, it's just going to display that first argument. So we can kind of show this in an example here inside of our command prompt. So I'm just going to clear the screen for clarity, and we are going to navigate to our IQT folder since I wasn't already there. And as you see, we're here with test.bat. So if we type in test.bat with what we had just placed in and typed in, Scorpion, our lovely squadron mascot, hit enter, then you see that Scorpion is the only thing that is being displayed as the output. And mind that we went through and we only put 1%, we put 1% sign that was there. So that means that it's only going to take in one argument. So if we were to go and do like test.bat and we did Scorpion, and then we did another word, was do test. So this has 2 arguments that we're passing in, but within our script, it's only accepting 1. So when we hit enter, we'll see what this result is. See, it only displayed Scorpion still, even though we had 2 arguments, but because in our first script, we only denoted just one argument, which is with the %1. So now if we wanted to display both of these words at the same time, then we would just would add on a %2. Well, let's just do it on separate lines. We're just going to do an echo and a %2. We'll do it this way. So that way you can see them, sequential line by line. We're going to go through. We're just going to do a save, and we're going to go back up, and we're going to run the same script again with Scorpion and test. And now, as you can see, the output has both Scorpion and test on 2 separate lines, as we did within our script. So that is generally how you would go about taking something that is from the command line that the user types in and placing it into the program in order to manipulate or to be able to do something with that. So, I mean, we could directly take like 2 numbers and we could add 2 numbers together, or we can concatenate and combine strings or anything like, just whatever you would normally do within a normal program. But in a lot of ways, the percent modifier can be a little bit limiting. And so and in most cases you want to be able to truly store that value in the program to be able to be used through iterative functions or through logical operators such as like an if and else or in other like more complex functions. And so how do we, accomplish that? Well, we accomplish that by using the set command. So the set command is simply, putting in set followed by a variable name, and then we use the assignment modifier in order to give it a value. So if we go back into our example that is up here, and we wanted to do set input equals we'll just do Scorpion again here. Then what we have here now is that we are creating a variable that is named input. I don't like the name input here. That doesn't make sense. Let's call it output. And so now we have output equals Scorpion. So now we are putting the value of Scorpion into a variable name that is named output. Now this 2 lines itself is just going to assign the value. So now that we saved it and we ran it again, you'll see that nothing happens. Nothing showed up here. So we didn't put in our echo command to be able to see what that value is. So we're going to go back and we're going to add that in. So now we go in and echo. So anytime that you want to display the value of a variable, we want to ensure that we bookend them with the percent sign. So we're going to do percent sign output, and then we're going to do another percent sign. So now we know that this is saying that, okay, we just want to display the contents of this variable. And so when we click save again, we run test.bat, now you see that Scorpion is being displayed. Now it's nice. So now it's nice to have the static output and everything, but this is where we start to build the foundations for our input and output in our program. And if we combine our percent modifier with the set command, now we can do some pretty powerful stuff from the command line. And this will then, this is the basis that'll go forward for creating pretty much any batch script that you'll build into the future. And so what we'll do is, instead of taking and assigning this to Scorpion, we'll just take output, and now we'll just use that %1 modifier, and that's it. So now we can go into our test.bat, and we can give it any value, any alpha value, and it's going to go and it's going to display that however we want to do it. So if we do test.bat, now we don't have to type in Scorpion. We can type in sunny. No, let's just do this. We'll put in quotes. We'll do sunny day. Can't type. And sunny day is displayed. Then we can do it again, and this time we're going to do test. Test is being displayed, and then we go back and do Scorpion. Scorpion's displayed. So you get the picture. And this also goes with multiple arguments as well. So we can do like output 1 as this, and then we could do set output 2, add it to another one, and then we can kind of do the same thing. We could put these on one line just to make it look a little nicer. Output 1, output 2, echo. So now we can go in, we can then do test.bat, squadron, Scorpion. And we see Squadron and Scorpion are displayed on the same line. That same restriction still applies here, so that if we were to add a third line to our test.bat right now from the command line, then we're not going to see that third name be displayed because there's no third argument that's being defined in our script. So if we do test.bat, Squadron, Scorpion, and team, you see that team does not show up at the end of the string because we did not have that %3 that is here, but it's just as simple as adding an output 3, doing that, and then we could just take this, do a quick copy paste, Then we're going to do a save, and then we go back, we run it again with team, and now we see all three things being displayed. So pretty straightforward. That is the simple way of taking in an argument from the user, stored it in a variable, and then we take that and we just display it back out to the user to be able to see. So now, what if we are doing numerical values? Well, that is also just as simple. So in order to do numbers, then we would just use the /a switch on our set command. So we're going to go back into our WordPad. We're just going to clean up a little bit this real quick. I'm just going to go right on back to the beginning here. And so we're going to leave our echo off. So we're just going to, as we're going to head every script pretty much from this point forward with our echo off. And we want to, if we want to take the number 5, or let's use number 1. Number 1, simple. We're all number 1, right? If we want to take the number 1 and we just want to set it to a variable that's named num, then that would be simple. So we would just do set. We'll do the /a. So this is the new modifier that we're adding on that we didn't have previously before, and we'll name it num. Don't believe that's a reserved word. Doesn't look like it. And we will set it to 1. And then we just hit enter. And when we run test.bat, nothing should happen. We shouldn't have a problem. Okay, so we know that everything is working just fine here. We didn't display anything, but just to, you want to ensure that the value is stored, we can then go back, do our echo, and we can run it, and we see that the number 1 is being displayed. Now, doing that /a is important because if you want to designate that variable to be able to perform operator, like alpha operators such as adding and subtracting, multiplication and division, then this is something that is a must. So if we want to add num with itself, so now we can do an echo. Well, here, let's do it this way. Let's just set, we're going to create a result. We're going to create a result folder, and we're going to just add num to itself. So we'll just take %num. So once again, anytime you make a reference to a variable after you have it declared, you want to make sure that you have it bookended inside of these percent signs. So we have num in our percent signs, and we're just going to do plus num. Just do that for itself, and we'll display result. And now we'll see that when we run it, we should get 2. And this applies for all your different operators. So, I mean, if we want to be, super cool, I mean, we can kind of go through and see how awesome it. Ooh, not that. Why did it not like that? Let's see. Well, we'll see if it hates us. We'll see what happens. Actually, let's give it a better number. We're going to give it 3. Just a number that makes it a little bit more. Oh, did we not? Oh, we didn't do the rest of the echoes, did we? We're rewriting it. All right, bad programmer. My bad. So now we see that all these that we put 3, so line 1, 3 plus 3 is 3, 0, basic mathematics doing division. So you get so now you get what's happening here, and we can go forward and we could do all sorts of pretty neat calculations, with this. And that's basically like the foundation of being able to take in alphanumeric values and store them into variables, and just do some basic things with it. One more thing that I wanted to go over before we head out of this is to give you basically the fastest overview of environment variables ever. And So normally when you run a batch file, you would have to be in the folder that you are running a batch in order for that batch file to work. So when we go into dir, we see that the test.bat file is here. So we would either need to run test.bat from like where we are in order to do it, or say if we were in a different folder, let's make it an extreme example. If we were in program files and we run to run that same folder or run that same batch file, then we would have to explicitly designate the path to that batch file in order to get it to run. Um, and in some cases, that can be fine. And if you're just trying to run an install, or if you're just trying to do something maybe like a one-time type of operation, then that will be fine. And there are going to be some cases in which maybe you are creating some sort of function that you want to use throughout the system multiple times. It has some advanced logic. It's going to take multiple arguments, and the behavior of that script may vary over a period of time, and it may be a little bit more inconvenient to have that being to having to go in, type in that absolute value, or to navigate to that batch file and then have to put in another absolute path in order to get that to work. And so it's a little cumbersome. And so the way to get around that is that you can add this batch file to your path system variable within Windows, and then you will be able to access that from pretty much anywhere on the system. This varies from operating system to operating system. So also in Linux, this is also used in Linux as well. But we'll get to that one down the road. But for now, we'll just focus on how to do that in Windows. And for Windows, it is very, very simple. So I'm actually going to go into the IQT folder, and we're just going to just create another folder inside here, and we're just going to call it bin, and we're just going to move our test script into that folder. So maybe you have a lot of different functions that you're going to be creating on your system, and so you could essentially just create a batch function folder, make up just a binary folder of those things, throw all your scripts in there, and then just add that one folder as an environment variable, and then you'll be able to just access all those functions throughout your system like at any moment, and that have to require so much navigating through the command line in order to run them. So now that we have it in the bin file, we are going to actually go into do a little bit of running in Windows. I'm going to close this for a quick second, and we're going to go into this PC, and we're going to go to Properties, and then we'll go to Advanced System Settings, and then to Environment Variables. And so you'll want to look for, under System Variables, a thing that's called Path. So we see that path is just right here, and we're just going to click Edit, and we're going to add New. And we're gonna just, assuming that our test bat is still in that binary folder, that bin folder of IQT, we'll just type in the path of that folder, IQT/bin. And we're gonna hit OK. We want to just make sure it's there. We can double check to make sure it's saved, because sometimes this stuff happens and it doesn't save. So we just kind of double check ourselves. I like to do that. So we see that IQT bin is still there. So now we will just we're just going to close the command prompt, and we will reopen it. And so from our base folder, we're here just in our default user folder, but we can we'll give an extreme example. Okay, so we're in users, and we'll run test.bat, and as you can see, test.bat now runs, even though we are not in the same folder that bat script is. And I could do a dir, show you that we're not in that folder, but test.bat will still do what we want it to do. And I mean, we can go anywhere now and run test.bat, and it's still going to give us this output, so we can just go give it the first one, 7-zip folder, test.bat. We got the same ones. And so that is very handy. There are a lot of programs that won't even, a lot of Java applications actually that are built with the Java runtime won't even function unless you have the path set to the JRE. JRE runtime environment is designated the path variable within Windows, which I actually believe, if we actually look in here, I don't know if I actually have Java installed on this computer, because I don't very often, but we'll see inside the path. Yeah, so here they just created one that's called Java Home. So it requires a very specific environment variable that is named Java Home. Path is a little bit different. Path is what is used to designate command line functions. So if something needs to run functionally from the command line, and it needs to run anywhere else other than that area of the batch, then this is where this would be designated. And I believe that is it. We have did a quick brief 20 minutes of just looking into general input and output in our batch files, and just like a quick look at environment variables. And so as we continue to build on this, and we'll get on to other things, there's other references and things like that that we look at as well. I can also give some links to those too as well. But so when we move forward, we will then look into adding on to this stuff by taking what we learned today, and we're going to add on some operators as well as doing some decision making. So taking in an argument, looking at what the user typed in, and then determining some sort of result based on what the user put in. And then we'll maybe even look at a way to kind of like bug check, fact check some of the things that the user types in to make sure that what they're typing in is correct and doesn't bust your script. So with that said, I will go ahead and close out this one, and I hope that everybody's doing good, and I look forward to talking to you for the next lesson.